Welcome to the Recycle Podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFanya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 51, Manhandled in the Abyss. Now today, everybody, we're going to be talking about a couple of topics. We're going to be discussing misogyny noir as well as respectability politics. I'm opening up with respectability politics because I want to give you the definition of that. This is a term that was originally coined by Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham in 1993 in a book called Righteous Discontent. And it is a set of beliefs holding that conformity to prescribed mainstream standards of appearance and behavior will protect a person who is part of a marginalized group, especially a Black person, from prejudice and systemic injustice. In other words, you're trying to protect yourself in order to make it through the day.
That good old protection, huh?
And it don't work.
And then I'm going to give you all the information for misogyny noir. So this term was coined by Moya Bailey, and she combined two words, misogynist, which is dislike or hatred, and noir, which is the French word for Black. So she coined this term to kind of describe what Black women have to go through. And it's basically the hatred of Black women. Her research for this term started after she heard Janet Mock's quote of "girls like us," and she coined it because it was so general. It could be generalized to many different types of situations. So that was how she kind of started her research on this journey.
So I like that term because it's very specific to us. You know, I think a lot of scientific, or when we talk about terms related to Black people and or women, you know, kind of lump us all together. Mm-hmm. So I like this term specifically, in what she came up with, because it is very detailed to us, because we experience things that are very different than a lot of other individuals. Kind of
intersectionality.
Exactly.
Who was that? Kimberly?
Girl, don't even get me looking for that one.
Yeah, and I think it's Kimberly Crow or something like that. But she did term that intersectionality.
It's a great word.
Do your Googles.
Yes.
No Psych 101 on that one, guys.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do, since we're talking about misogyny noir and respectability politics, we wanted to give you a quick rundown of the tropes and kind of how those are, you know, kind of tied to misogyny noir. So we definitely want to say go back and listen to Trope Trippin' 1. There will be a link in the description box so that you can go back and listen to that one so that you can get more detailed about these tropes. Like we said, this is going to be a very quick, fast rundown of these. There are 5 main ones that are attributed to Black women specifically. These are not in the order in which they came. So again, go back and listen to Trope Trippin' 1 so that you can get the order in which these were developed. But they are as follows. There is the mammy. So this is essentially the desexualization of Black women, that we are the caretakers, that we are just the help.
The being ugly, being fat, and undesirable.
Yeah. The second one is the Jezebel, which is the direct opposite of the mammy.
You got that Jezebel spirit.
Wearing red lipstick and red shoes to church.
Ooh. Yes. So this is the direct opposite, and this is the over sexualization of Black women. We are insatiable jungle bunnies that just cannot get enough. And, our bodies are not our own, and they can be used for whatever, pleasures come to the mind of, the man that's in front of us, basically. Then there's the sassy Black woman. So this is the best friend that's neck rolling and finger snapping, and
with the quick comebacks.
We're funny and all
sarcastic.
that. So if you needed a visual description of that, the first person that comes to mind for me is like Pam from Martin.
Or even Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish, yeah.
She's her every day.
Or I was gonna say like Maxine from Living Single.
Or Jada Pinkett Smith in A
Low Down Dirty Shame.
Yes.
Peaches.
Oh, I love that's my favorite movie, y'all.
Too. That's one of my
one of my favorite. Yeah.
I didn't leave you. I said my second. I said one of.
I was like, we're not gonna even go down that trail, but okay.
She thought I left her, y'all.
Yeah. She knows what the favorite movie is.
We're gonna review it one day.
Yeah. Yes. So then also the one that really gets under my skin are the next two. The first is the strong Black woman. So this is essentially that we can withstand all things, that we are the heads, the forefront. We are
the resilient ones.
Yeah, we're the brunt. We are the backbone. We are everything to our community.
Superwoman,
everything
robot.
to everybody.
And then, of course, probably the most known one is the angry Black woman. And this is also, in a direct opposition to the strong Black woman, that, you can withstand all of this stuff, but the second you start voicing your opinion, you're abrasive, you're overbearing, you're too much, you're too loud, you're too anything. So this is basically the description that we are always walking around with this frustration and this load on our back that we are just ready to kill. Basically.
But it only happens, well, I don't want to say only happen, but one of the reasons why it happens is because someone does not like what we say.
Yes. So we wanted to go over the tropes again, to just give you a kind of a general quick fire overview, but we wanted to talk to you also about kind of how these are related to misogynoir. And I think it's best done by tying them to some examples and how they show up amongst three main kind of groups. So you're typically going to see misogynoir. Now this can be seen by any group of people, any racial group or gender. But generally for American society, you are going to see it from three main sections. You're going to see it from Black men towards Black women, white men towards Black women, and white women towards Black women. And all of these tropes are utilized as a way to promote misogyny, i.e. sexism, as well as racism. So that's where the misogynoir piece comes. That intersection, as we've talked about, between sexism and racism.
Yeah. It creates a caste system based off of gender and race.
Absolutely. All right. So which one do y'all want to start with? Black men towards Black women?
Yeah, let's just start there.
Okay. So one of the first kind of ideas that I can see for misogynoir from Black men towards Black women is the angry Black woman. And then kind of we're bottlenecked into, we don't have a way to kind of be calm, that we're always having an attitude, or you always got something to say, or they're not necessarily protecting us against other forms of misogyny and or racism when those things kind of happen.
Well, I think it's because of the tropes that they fall in. You know, they put us in the Jezebel, the strong Black woman, and the sassy woman, and the message that they learn from early age is that Black girls are, we can be played with, but they're not to be married.
Yeah. Have y'all ever sat back and just thought about like how weird it is that certain people that fall into this category have that disrespect, and then it's like once you reach grandma age, then you the most respected person in the community. Like you disrespected your whole life, and in the last couple of years you alive, then you respect it
because you transition over into the mammy.
Yeah,
you know,
you're their caretaker, nurturer, the cook, the wise person. You got, you know,
but you've been her the whole time.
But you've been her in external appearance, but in for whatever their mind, not internally. Because you haven't always been a caretaker like grandma does.
And I think that's a very personal thing. So it's, you know, internally, like within your family unit, the women in your family do not take on these, you know, these roles. You don't necessarily see your own mother or your own sister or your own daughter as women that are affected by necessarily misogynoir. But you can externalize and then practice and participate in it for women outside of your family unit because, you know, there's no personal tie. And a lot of people say, well, I would never treat such and such like that, but then will literally walk out the door and be like, you know, F that, blah, 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 because they don't want to talk to you as you're, you know, walking into the store.
That reminds me of sex offenders. They're less likely, I'm not saying it's impossible, but they're less likely to molest their own child, but they will molest their stepchild or their niece or their, you know, someone outside of their home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you don't want to crap where you eat.
That's what they say.
You know, so a lot of times, and this goes back to what we were saying in one of the previous sessions. No, you know, we have so much ingrained in us that we don't realize that we're doing certain things. And then it's not until we hold a mirror up and realize, okay, hey, I need to work on this certain behavior or this certain trait that I have. And we're like, oh, okay, I have been, you know, participating in misogyny noir or, you know, whatever other toxic trait we may have.
And then, you know, sometimes a lot of, you know, as we obviously get older, grandma passes away. So then somebody steps up to take her place. Like when we watched, what was the movie with Nia Long?
I almost said Big Mama's House, but I mean, she was in that, but that is not what we're talking about. Soul food.
Yeah. Like, and
same thing.
Right, I know. But when Big Mama passed away, Max stepped up into that role. And so, of course, now she's going to be seen different because now she's in the role of Big Mama.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think this can also show up in Black men towards Black women when you have, you know, of course, we know this is not all Black men, but you have a certain subset of Black men that refuse to date or associate themselves with Black women. And you get this same kind of stereotypical responses about why that is. You're high maintenance, you know, you got attitude all the time. You know, you're not submissive, you know, insert the whatever the reason is. But I think that's another way that gets perpetuated on to us from Black men to Black women.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was something on the TikToks and by this guy called Consciously, and definitely go follow him. He has a lot of good material on all social media platforms, but he presented a question to Black men. Tell me why you don't date Black women without talking about Black women. And it was very difficult for the majority of the people that chose to respond. It was still all about Black women. Instead of it being about your preferences and about, you know, I don't feel desired by Black women, or maybe I'm not their type, or, you know, it was how we talked about I statements and you statements. This is a prime example of that. It was very difficult for those particular Black men to keep it about them versus putting blame on the Black woman.
I can see that, because anytime you listen to their answer to why they don't date Black women, it's like that's not a real reason. I mean, it may be a real reason for you.
Yeah,
which I get.
It's definitely a reason, and you can have whatever preferences you want, but that would be the same thing as a black woman. I don't date black men because they lazy. I don't date black men because all they do is make kids and be baby daddies. Now, I don't agree with any of those things that I just said, but those could definitely be some black women's view of black men.
Which is just as unhealthy,
Right?
And not helpful to the community at large.
Nope, not at all.
You know, and I think that's one of the things when we consider specifically this type of misogyny noir, you know, that it's not helpful to the community at large, because that's an intra issue. You know, when we talk about the next two, those are inter issues. You know, so. And there's an expectation that kind of comes along with that, you know, based on our society. We kind of know that, and again, we know not all, so let's go ahead and put that out there. But we know that for, you know, white people, that there's going to be some of them that are going to be racist towards us. And we know as women that there are going to be some men that are sexist towards us. But when you combine those two individuals together and you have a black man and you have a problem with me, we've already talked about before that when one of us messes up, it becomes a collective for all of us. So we tend to do that even within our own group, that we generalize the mess up of one to all.
Yeah.
But see, the thing about that is the mess up with a black woman is held at a different standard than the mess up of a white woman.
Yes.
Because I can't remember if you said this on the podcast or if we were just talking before we started recording, but black men or people can date white women and they will cut you to shreds. And nobody says anything about that. But we do that. Oh, you angry. Oh, we all these
Queen, why you don't got your crown on? Why you slumming it? Like it's weird. Like I'm gonna throw family under the bus a little bit. I've had people in my family who exclusively date white or Hispanic women tell me I better not ever bring home anybody other than a black man. And I'm like, so you get to do it?
You get to do you?
What if I'm not my type's type?
How about
so I just have to be by myself then. Because I'm only good enough for a black man that don't want me.
Wow.
Yeah. And we practice this and we don't even realize that we're practicing it because it's something that's so deeply ingrained in the way our society works that sometimes we say these things and we don't even recognize that we're saying them or how backwards it actually is. You know, just to say something like that you can engage in something that I can't engage in. So you just immediately used sexism and racism, but it's more of an internalized because we have a whole discussion about black people and being racist, but you've internalized the messages of racism and used them against me.
It's a betrayal.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't understand, because a lot of black men are like that. If we see a black man with a white woman, it's, oh, we're not expected to say anything. But if we are with the white man, it's like, oh, why you couldn't find no brother? No, I couldn't.
Yeah, it happens.
Right.
It's unfortunate.
And you'll get the looks, that's for sure. You'll get a lot of looks.
So, I think one of the things that we also kind of have to keep in mind is that kind of goes along with specifically in misogyny noir of black men towards black women is a lack of protection as well. And this is something that's been put out into the mainstream media a lot more regularly and frequently recently.
It's a hashtag.
It is a hashtag. But you do start to see this a lot. Unfortunately, now that social media is much bigger than it was maybe even 10 years ago, that there is a lot of disparaging. There's a lot of calling out. There's a lot of name calling in reference to black women. There is a lot of expectation on what our behavior should be. And
And the behavior is in comparison of our European counterparts. Like,
Yes.
that's not our personality. So I would like to say,
She gonna get it together, y'all. She gonna get it.
I would like to say that for most Black women, it's not our personality to be meek and jovial all the time and just smile for no reason, just walking up and down the halls and in our office. That's just not our personality. Because first of all, we've been carrying the weight on our shoulder of the world. So we thinking about a lot of stuff.
That is true. Somebody's passionate.
See, and somebody would have said that I was angry. See the difference?
Aggressive.
But, we talked about this before. That goes back to, I think people forget this. Like, the whole system of slavery and racism was to divide a Black family. You separate them because you don't want the community. It's just like in the military. You want to break people down to build them back up the way you want them to. And so to have the family unit intact would not have worked. Yes, you want your quotation buck producing big, strong offspring, but then you don't want him staying. Later in slavery, he got to get a little pass and he got to go visit Esther at the other plantation once a year to see her and get her pregnant again. But that was not the norm. And a lot of that still continues to where then the prize actually becomes getting to the status of a white man and in control. And with that also comes with being with a white woman.
And then they broke it down even more. Light-skinned people were in the house. Darker complexion people were outside.
Well, that's because we would have been the owner's kids.
Most likely.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue to kind of talk into how it shows up from white men towards Black women. So I was watching this video of this one woman, and I'll send you the link so that they can put it in the description box, because I thought it was great. And the video is of a light-skinned Black woman. She identified as Black, so let me go ahead and say that. However, I believe she is biracial, but she identified as Black, and she's almost white passing in skin color, but she has slightly kind of like that 3C hair. So in her video, she was talking about how she had a group of mainly white friends with a couple of Black friends. You saw that one?
Yeah, I saw it.
And she talked a lot about how misogyny noir showed up in white men and how they flowed her between the mammy and the Jezebel like constantly.
I can see that.
And one of the things that she talked about was in the presence of white women, she was the Jezebel because she was oversexed and, how dare, I don't want you touching me. I don't want your Black on me, because the white woman might not want me if she sees you being attracted to me or me even being attracted to you. But out of the presence of white women, she was the mammy. She was one of the guys. She was the homie. She was, the cool girl. And that because they dehumanized her and desexualized her, that she ended up being assaulted by some of the people in her friend group.
And verbally attacked by a Black man from the group.
And when she spoke up to her friend group about it, they took her from the mammy to the angry Black woman.
Of course. Because who wants to acknowledge what they've done to somebody?
And nobody protected her.
No one.
Because the first example she gave was the verbal attack. No, they kept allowing him to come to the functions that they had. That nobody ever even confronted him about his behavior and how he treated her. Nothing.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting, because, and we haven't talked necessarily about colorism or anything like that, but what I found interesting about that video is a lot of people believe like the closer you look to whiteness, that it will protect you in some ways. And on top of that, just even deeper, the closer you believe you are to people as far as relationship goes and affinity, like their love for you.
Yeah.
The closer you think you are to people, the more that you feel they will be just, that they will be protective and understanding, but you are always constantly reminded you are an other.
Yeah.
And you don't actually fit in this group.
It was interesting that she was saying that the default, because one of the comments to her was that you're not like everybody else. You're not like them because their default is a white woman. And she was saying how Black women are more rational and less emotional. And that's what white men were telling her. And it's so interesting. I found it to be interesting that white men told her that Black women are more rational, less emotional, but Black men think we're more emotional and less rational.
Well, that's because they're an outsider.
You talking about white men?
Black men are an outsider to the white world.
Gotcha. Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So they don't know what them white women are doing. Like, white men know what them white women are doing. You know? You know, ironically, the whole affinity thing that you were talking about, Dr. Strickland, was something that I experienced when former President Barack Obama was elected by a lot of people in my town. That's when, oh, okay, so you were a closeted racist. Oh, okay, so you had this. Oh, okay, so that. And so then when I remember making a statement on my Facebook post, and I called out like a very specific couple of people, and they were like, no, that's not what I meant. That's not directed to you. Or I said, but you said it. Yeah. And I'm Black. I don't know if you forgot, like my skin always been this color. And it's like a very heartbreaking thing to be like, okay, I grew up with these people, you know, I have loved on them. They have loved on me. We've gone through different trials together. And because of my skin color, now all of this stuff is spewing out of your mouth.
Yeah. See, I think I saw it more when 45 was president.
She's something else.
I
almost made a joke, but I'm gonna keep that to myself.
I refused. 45 when he was there.
Well, you know he's still president.
We're not doing that.
Do not make me vomit on this mic.
We're not doing that. So what did you see? Like, what did you notice was different?
Well, I had a particular person on my Facebook page who, so when George Floyd was murdered, you know how everybody was trying to post about him having a past and supposedly, you know, allegedly sexually assaulting or robbing or some young lady or whatnot. And then I even had someone on that was African American that came on my page. But you remember, I can't remember the young lady's name, but she had a post about the Monopoly money.
Oh, yes. It was a video of her. Yes.
Yeah. And so, and I reposted it on my Facebook page and I got a phone call from an African-American person, but see, she can't pass because, you know, she's not passing, but she wants to be. And so she was like, I can't believe you reposted that. Why wouldn't I repost it? She was like, because you have a business and you are a therapist. I said, first of all, I had to calm down. And I had to make a phone call because I wasn't going to keep texting you because I needed you to hear my tone.
Yeah.
And I had to get her right.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, definitely we haven't hit on that, but we can, as Black women, engage in it towards each other as well.
I agree to that one. Because if not, we wouldn't have the Candace Owens.
Yes. Absolutely.
Y'all, Dr. Jones Hines and sat on back in her chair. She just done. She disgusted.
Yeah. You know,
I can't with that. What?
Yes. You know, and I want to definitely make sure that we understand that we do it to each other.
Yes.
So this is not necessarily just a Black man, white woman issue. We engage in this as well with one another. You're just more primarily going to see it from those three individual groups towards Black women.
Yeah.
How else have y'all seen, white men towards Black women misogynoir?
We are often fetishized. Our booties, our breasts, our lips, our hips. I mean, just look at the plastic surgery situation right now. In fact, I know we aren't specifically discussing white women, but me and my bestie went to a local spot, and this girl was slapping her on the butt, talking about, I don't know why you single. Got on a full blonde wig, done had a BBL done.
Oh, wow.
She got injections. She done had cheap, she looked like almost a light-skinned Black woman.
Oh, wow.
She had tanned. I was like, oh, okay, this what going on. She didn't touch me because y'all know
your face says leave me alone.
And my aura. So I was just like, she ain't coming over here. But my bestie, she just
bubbly.
But I see that a lot, and also because of my brothers who they choose to date. I see that a lot, and then the fetishizing from white men.
And you know what? I think that even, well, with my experience, I have even experienced gay white men sexualizing me.
Yes.
So I used to live in a certain area, and my neighbor was a gay white man. He invited me to come to a club.
Okay.
And they were, doing their little thing and whatever. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll go. So we gets in here and we, chilling, dancing and stuff like that. This dude goes with both hands on the twins.
Oh, wow. Not on
Y'all,
the hairs on the 20 twins.
Y'all, I grabbed it before dude, both of your hands about to be broke. What you just do? Because that's not going to happen. I'm not going to be molested in my adult life.
Not on purpose.
Well, no.
I think that part of that misogynoir, I think this is an overall, but specifically white individuals, because I think this happens with white women as well, is a lack of personhood. That we are reduced to bodies and we are not people.
Yeah, parts of a whole little gestalt.
Yeah, so that I have the right to touch your body because you're not that deeply ingrained, and people don't believe that they hold these ideas, but they really do.
They really do.
That you're not a person. And sometimes people forget that just because they fall within another marginalized community, that they are absolved from being a part of the isms.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they clump us all in it together.
No, we're not in this together. Okay, so stop it.
Yeah,
we can be allies for each other, but each of us has a very different journey or struggle or however you want to phrase that, and so there needs to be some respect to that. I think another thing along that same line is they always want to touch our hair. Sir, did I give you consent to touch me? I don't know why that's such a hard thing. I don't just walk up and run my hands and fingers through your straight, glassy hair. I don't. I don't do that. I don't go and rub my hand on the top of an Asian guy's hair because it feels like cool and stuff. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I need to have a relationship with you to be able to touch your person in the first place. And then I'm still going to ask you. We've been friends for years. I'm not just going to dig my hand in your bun today. Yeah. First of all, it probably took you a while to put it up there. Don't nobody want to be
doing all that.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, in what world do you think it's okay for you to just touch me the way you want to touch me? If I go up and kick you in your gonads, you're not going to like that. I'm going to enjoy it, but you ain't going to like it.
Right. And I don't understand, where your why you don't think I have boundaries?
Well, I think it goes again back to that lack of personhood. When you've been reduced to an object, and that was, if we take it back to slavery.
The blocks.
Yeah, you were an object. You were not you were a piece of property.
Yeah.
And we've talked about generational trauma and how that is passed down in through your DNA. That same mentality gets passed down through your DNA.
Master mentality and slave mentality.
Yeah, this goes back to, I'm sorry, I cannot think of the name of the session where we were describing how, I don't know if I described it or not, but Dr. Guir was talking in a video about she was looking at a picture of a young white girl after they had lynched this man and how she was smiling and all of the people in the picture looked jovial. And what she was talking about in that picture was like this man was dehumanized. Like he was worse. He was lower than an animal. Like these people are actually celebrating and happy and no one is mortified. No one is scared. No one is, like, oh my God, like we just burned this man, chopped, they had, dismembered him and, burned them and everything. And no one had what was batting an eye. Everyone in this picture looked calm, cool, and collected.
What level of evil do you have to be okay with that?
And watch it.
Several levels.
Because that grosses me out. I don't care what you've done to me. I don't want to see that type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Not even in, y'all gonna take my black card away. I have never seen Roots all the way through. I can't watch it. It's just too much.
We are not a monolith. We're not taking black cards because you haven't watched a traumatizing movie.
I just,
yes.
I don't, yeah.
But just to kind of, comment on your point is that, that man, he was not seen as a person. So the same way that trauma is passed down through your DNA, that type of mentality of you are not a being of this world, that you are lower than an animal.
Yeah.
That is passed down and then it gets watered down.
Covert.
Yeah, it gets more covert and it's been watered down over the years, but the bud, the beginnings of that thought is still there.
Well, what I guess I don't understand is where do you get off having the right to dehumanize anybody?
They took it.
Because I understand what you're saying, but you don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in.
But no, we getting deep. We about to hit rabbit hole here.
Come back, y'all.
Okay, because I was
on the precipice. Come back.
Yeah, I was like, hold on, we about to
not the precipice.
Yeah,
that's a different.
Yeah, we about to take a left turn somewhere.
But
I felt it
when I was younger. My grandfather was raised in Franklin, Tennessee, and if anybody knows anything about that, it's very close to where the Grand Wizard once was at the Ku Klux Klan. And so, the way he grew up in Franklin, Tennessee in the 20s and 30s and all that, a little different. But I remember him being very particular about certain words that I use, me knowing the history of it. And one just jogged my mind when you said about them surrounding the black body swinging from the poplar trees. Shout out to Billie Holiday. Was he never allowed us to say picnic because picnic is derived from picker ninja. We're gonna edit that, but put in the other word. And so he never allowed us to use that word because of that, and because that scene that you saw would have been a picnic. They found any person, normally the most docile person they can find walking alone, and they string them up and do all kind of stuff and sodomize them and just do all kind of things to that black person.
Yeah. So when you have that for generations and generations and generations, and then, you try to slowly undo that, you get situations where you were talking about with that young man at the club, where you don't believe that you still, that you still engage in these things, but they are so deeply rooted in American culture that it's almost hard to separate yourself from them.
It is American culture.
Yeah. That you can still be a misogynist and be gay. You
can still be a racist and be gay.
Yeah.
Or have black friends.
Or black children.
Well, and the thing about that is,
that's one of the half black children. Let me say
Okay.
that. Let me get a little bit more correct with that.
that's the one thing that I don't understand, how when white people say, well, I have black friends. Well, slave masters own black people. That didn't mean they liked them.
And they had some love for them, but that didn't stop them from doing the things that they were doing.
Right.
And I think that also kind of plays into that. That's more of a racism, not necessarily misogyny noir, but I do think, that can be used for white women towards, and how they can engage in misogyny noir is that it makes it okay for me to say certain things because I have black friends.
Because I have a black boyfriend.
Hunty. Just because you got a black boyfriend don't mean you like black people. You just like black pea.
There you go. Oh, I like that edit, y'all. So I think that that's a good segue into kind of how white women can show misogyny noir towards black women. So I would definitely start off with, I think can be, of course, white people towards black people, or even, any other, what is that, BIPOC? BIPOC. But I think that can be, shown for any racial group towards black people. However, since we're specifically talking about this one, saying that I have black friends or I have black girlfriends, that, hey girl, hey, what's up, friend? Yeah.
Hey, come on, queen, you give.
But you know what? When I have people do that and they give me that excuse, I tell them, then do better. Because you're not representing your black friends very well. Or if I've had, people say that I knew and they were my friend. I'm like, well, you ain't representing me because your representation looked like trash.
Well, I be wanting people to get mad. Please get mad. Please. Well, slave masters had black people in their life too.
Ma'am. You supposed to be working on your fight.
I know. Okay. But this topic makes me mad.
I'm telling you, we on the precipice of going a whole nother direction, guys.
We're trying to pull her back.
But the other thing that I would say on how white women show misogyny noir is that, so I've read a lot of studies and things like that on how, for, again, this is some asterisk, guys, some white women will prioritize whiteness over womanness.
Look at the polls.
Because that's who they white supremacists with heels.
Yeah, that's who dug out the previous election. Like, there was a astronomical amount of women who showed up to the polls to lead 45 into his win. It wasn't. It wasn't that other people didn't show up in great numbers, because that's not what, the poll showed. It was actually white women that won that race.
They uphold racism.
They also don't realize how much up under the misogyny that they are also. They are the tool to, can perpetuate it onto others.
Which is exactly where I was going. That's why I liked this video so much of that woman. Because she really broke down how these things can kind of play out in a familiar relationship. Because another one of the stories that she was talking about was they were, kind of at some function. And
they went to a house party. She was invited to a house party.
Yeah, she was invited to a house party. And one of the guys that was there, she had never met this dude before. And she didn't really know all of the people really well at that time yet. But she was, fairly close to a few of the ladies. And the guy that was at the party was racist. I mean, he was, now surprisingly, this man was Jewish. But,
conundrum.
Yes, but he was being very racist and saying very, kind of prejudice and borderline-y kind of things. So then they go to, like this club or whatnot. And there's a white woman there. And I guess she's getting belligerent or whatnot. And the man says something to the woman, and calls her, oh, that's what it was a bridal shower or bridal party. So they were kind of hanging out with this bridal party, but then the bride, I guess, got upset about it and was like, hey, can y'all leave? Like, I don't want y'all part of my thing. So then that man calls her a B.
Of course.
But then The whole time when this man was being racist towards her, her friends didn't say anything. But the second that he had called this woman a B, they jumped all over him.
Mm-hmm.
And they were holding him accountable, saying he shouldn't say that and all this kind of stuff. And it just kind of left her stunned because, like, wait, hold on. This whole time he was being racist towards me. You guys are just oblivious and nobody says anything. But the second that he calls her, you know, a B, it's a problem.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's certain tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM.
That's why when you invite black people out, we normally say who all over there. Because I need to know what type of me I got to be. You know, I have to come in my boots, my combat boots? Can I be, you know, barefoot and fancy free, you know, foot loose?
Yeah.
But, you know, you just have to be so many different things, and it's tiring.
I don't go nowhere with a whole lot of white people.
I cannot.
I don't.
Dr. Jones.
I do not.
We gonna duct tape her in a minute, y'all. No, we not. She might be into that. Never mind.
It's got to be a few of them, or I got to have a crew, because
you need some type of barrier protection or something.
Absolutely.
Because if not,
like, we paranoid the same way, you know, you see the stereotypes of like white men and women, you know, clutching their wallets and purses or getting away from black people. Like, we just as terrified of y'all.
I clutch my fist.
But we actually have more reason because we're not the violent ones. We're not the one terrorizing the planet.
Until now.
If you don't get your life together, I'm about to put her in the corner. Okay? She acting up.
She really is.
Y'all know, y'all knew this topic was gonna piss me off.
Rodney, come get your wife.
Yes, Lord.
She needs you in other ways that we can't help her with. Okay?
We're gonna have to edit out a whole section of her. Lord have mercy. Yes, but the Caucasian individuals of the female persuasion, you know, I think one of the other ways is not believing us. Is another way that they participate in misogyny noir. And, you know, that can kind of be demonstrated in, you know, telling us that something isn't as bad as we thought. We're making a big deal out of it.
We're being too sensitive.
That, you know, just let it go, you know. And again, this is about upholding misogyny. Because upholding, it's funny because, you know, we talk about the default being white women, when in reality, the default is actually white men.
Yep, it is.
That is true.
You know, everything.
White Protestant men.
Yeah. That everything, as far as our culture is concerned, is based off how it will be seen and experienced and accepted by white men. And everyone falls under that umbrella to fall in line, basically.
I can't say nothing nice, so I'm not going to say anything at all.
Thank you. But, you know, I just think it was funny that, you know, kind of how we believed that the default was that, but when in reality, it's not. Because, you know, as we've kind of noted, that the point is to uphold misogyny. But all of us do that because it's about making that individual comfortable so that we kind of dim ourselves. Well, you know, they dim themselves, you know, and then everybody else dims us. So we don't even get a chance to do it if we wanted to because everybody else is doing it for us.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No
I also think that, white women towards, specifically on this particular type of misogyny noir, that I think white women sexualize us as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think they want to see us as the mammy.
But they enjoy our curves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they definitely back in the day benefited from us being the mammy. Like all they had to do was push the baby out, and then we took care of everything else. We were the wet nurse. We were the cook. We were the plaything.
Yeah, but I think it was okay too that they saw. Yes, you can you can play that role, but I still believe that their first idea about us was the Jezebel.
Yeah,
I think they're jealous of our shapes, but they want it because they sure try to get it.
Well,
I think some people are. I think because that's what's in right now is, voluptuous, but clearly a few decades ago it was rail thin. You know what I mean? That's just beauty standards depending on the time. And I think people are so focused on what they are not that they miss their beauty is beautiful too, unfortunately.
Very true. Yeah. But man, this stuff is deep.
Ain't it?
And this is really just kind of scratching the surface. You can really dive into this a lot more. And we do not have the time to get that deep in. But, I think it's something to keep in mind on how ingrained all of these ideas are, and that you are not immune to them. That even if you are quote unquote woke, I don't even know if people still say woke anymore, but if you call yourself being aware and understanding of all of these different intersections and all the different, how you can be a double, triple, quadruple minority and all of these different things, that you are still not released from participating in these things. It's very easily to be a colorist, that's another layer of kind of how we demonstrate misogyny noir.
I think I used to be a colorist because I used to not like dating light-skinned men because I thought, but it wasn't because of it was because I thought that they thought they were pretty, and I was like, I don't like pretty boys. But
that's interesting.
I know a lot of, lighter skinned women, black women who only date super, super dark black men. I'm not going to tell her business, but somebody in my family like her men to be so black, you only see their eyeballs in the dark. Like that level. I ain't going to call nobody name out or nothing.
Black and a berry, the sweeter the
They
juice.
know who they are.
They do. They do.
And I think that's another level that plays into misogyny noir. If we're going to be honest, and this is something that I have actually thought about in reference to the podcast, when fix it, Jesus. When we become much more visible, that we're 3 light-skinned women.
Yeah.
That's something I've thought about several times actually. And what are the visuals of that? What is the assumption? Because we're, 3 light-skinned women on a show.
It's going to be a bunch of stereotypes.
A bunch of stereotypes about who we are, what we believe we are, our credentials, all those kinds of things. I have thought about that and how colorism will play to our advantage because of the privilege that comes with being a light-skinned black person in America.
Because there is privilege. Don't try to, nobody act like it's not. There is some privilege.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that's like, if you can't acknowledge that, then I don't even know what you're doing. Yeah. And just from the 3 of us, there's several levels of privilege that we have, that we kind of have to acknowledge. Educational privilege, light skin privilege. You have pretty privilege. You have, there's so many different, you have, texturism. I mean, there's so many different levels. And this is not to say that this is something that we're proud of. No. It's just an acknowledgement of. Mm-hmm. But, you know, colorism is an advantage to light-skinned people, but a disadvantage to dark-skinned people. Mm-hmm. And I think specifically when we're talking about misogyny noir in the colorism realm, that dark-skinned Black women face some of the harshest forms of misogyny noir. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, a lot of dark-skinned Black women are considered to be much more masculine. Mm-hmm. They are attributed with, you know, types of attributes that are not given to stereotypically to light-skinned women, because light-skinned women are generally considered to be closer to being white.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, darker-skinned women are more sexualized as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
very much so. You know, often you see it going from, you know, lighter complected women to darker complected women, but ironically, not towards me or anything like that, I've also seen darker complected women having some colorism about different things, and it normally comes up with, you know, like who a man chooses to marry. Oh, she not Black enough, or she not this, or she not that. I've heard people say that, like, what's that man name? Ludacris' wife is not Black. I said, well, how much more African do she need to be? Okay. She from Gabon.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, is, you know, I get the why. I totally get it. You know, kind of like what we were talking about. You want to be desired. You want them to be with somebody that looks like you look. Mm-hmm. So I definitely get that. But it's so ironic because it's coming from somebody that's not even like super dark either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think this kind of goes into when we were talking earlier about, as Black women, we can also participate in misogyny noir. And if it's going to be something that we participate in, it's most likely going to be in this format.
To the downfall of our sister.
Mm-hmm. Just because of, I mean, this kind of also ties back into slavery as well. You know, and you know, and we're not going to go into a huge tangent on, you know, house versus field and all these kinds of things, but
like it's a competition.
Right. But again, when we talk about generational trauma and how these things over the generations get ingrained into our DNA, this stuff is very hard to work out because it requires specific intent to be able to do that.
If y'all have never seen the movie School Days, there's a great scene in there between the two light skin and dark skin factions on the campus. It's a whole dance sequence. It's a Spike Lee film, so you know they be doing a lot of stuff. But they go talking about good and bad hair, whether you're light or what is it? Good or bad hair? I can't remember. But the point is, in that scene, they go down the line about all these attributes and what it looks like to be fair skin, what it looks like to be dark skin. You have your fair skin people who are in this movie traditionally in sororities and fraternities, and then you have the darker complected people who are activists and on the ground making things happen, and it shows you the pitting against, when in all actuality we're on the same side.
When we talk about misogyny noir, especially, you know, there was recently misogyny noir against from a colorism standpoint, that Colin Kaepernick recently wrote a book, and on the cover of this book is a dark-skinned Black woman. It's a cartoon depiction, but it just kind of called into question that when we talk about the like masculinization of dark-skinned women, that unfortunately women of this complexion are usually put as the leaders of the fight against. So when you go back and look at pictures from like civil rights times or any type of fight for some rights, you very rarely see light-skinned Black women at the forefront of these issues.
I can only think of one. Angela Davis off the top of my head. I'm sure there are others, but
yes,
that's the first one that popped up.
Yes, and this is not to say that there are not, but you will generally see dark-skinned Black women portrayed in the media as the leaders of our people. And even with kind of all of the like Philando Castile and all those types of police brutality / murder cases, when you go back and look at the images that are portrayed in the media, there's one in particular of a darker skinned Black woman like walking and standing up into the face of a police officer, and that image was blasted everywhere. So I think that continues to play into that idea of the strong Black woman, and then how you were able to withstand and take all of these things. But when we talk about intersectionality, it specifically is to the detriment of dark-skinned Black women.
Yeah, I think that when we have those types of images like that, it makes us a target, because it makes it easier for them to dehumanize us, to make it seem like we can handle anything. That's why we are put through everything, and it's just it makes it, I don't want to say unbearable, but it makes it more difficult for us to survive.
Yeah. So that's why we were saying a little bit earlier, guys, there's layers. This is a very complex issue, and there's no way for us to address all of these things within an hour or hour and a half, or however we end up, long we end up going on this. But, it's something that we wanted to definitely give you some information about as a springboard for you to go and do your own research, dive in a little bit deeper about these topics, because if you are a Black woman, Black man, or if we have any of our white counterparts listening as well, this is where you can start looking at, what in the world do I do? How do I stop participating, or how do I become more aware? Because it's going to be hard to stop participating in these things, but how do I become more aware when I am participating? What can I do to engage in healthier dialogue, healthier behaviors, healthier choices, things like that. So with that said, what do y'all think? What in the world can people do?
Well, I think one of the things is to educate yourself. Like, listen to the stories of Black women, and listen to it in a way that you're making space for her, and not a place where you're becoming defensive.
Yeah. There's no need to argue about her experience, regardless of if it hits a nerve with you or not. It's what she has endured. And she's probably not even talking about you. She's talking about herself.
And don't make her feel like she has to do some emotional laboring for you. She shouldn't have to suppress her emotion, who she is passionate about, or things like that. She should be able to, or we should be able, now it's not like we not Black, but we should be able to, share how we need to share, whether it comes out in a passionate way, an angry way, a venting way. It's not, you have to understand that it's not necessarily directed at you.
Yeah. For our, Black men, interns who date Black women, oftentimes we hear, I want my woman to be my peace, but are you being her peace?
Are you making space for her to be able to vent, or does she have to still act like, because like one of the things that we definitely try to do as Black women when we get married is allow our husbands to go out and work and face the world, but then come home to a peaceful home. But are you doing the same thing like Dr. Wall just said? Are you allowing her to go out in the world and do what she has to do and come into a peaceful home?
Yeah. I would add on to that, take a look at how you've internalized white supremacy. Because if you grew up in American society, pretty much all of us have.
Yep.
In some way, shape, or form, whether it is, classism, whether that, or elitism, whether that's racism, sexism, ageism, ableism, all the isms. You know, a lot of these things are steeped in white supremacy, and definitely I would probably say sexism starts at the, you know, is the trickle down from that, you know. But how have you internalized these messages? What is the stuff that you're consuming? You know, you are what you consume. Just like we used to say, you are what you eat, you are what you consume. So if you consume material that is, look at like promotional material. Look at how movie posters, I can think of one specifically. There was this movie called Good Boys. And on this movie poster, it's 2 little white boys and 1 black boy. Under the O's, the white boys are under the O's, so it looks like a halo. And the black boy is under, I can't remember what letter he's under, but but he has little horns coming off the top of it.
Isn't it the Y?
Is it the Y? He's under the Y, and it makes it look like he has horns coming off the top of his head. These are the things that help you, again, these are subliminal messages that help you internalize white supremacy and, you know, how this is being fed to us. So you have to be much more critical. Go back and listen to our episode about discernment. You have to be able to discern what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and what you're consuming, just in a general kind of sense, on how this stuff is getting into me, and then how I in turn spew that back out.
Yeah. Prime example, you know, when you're thinking about the cartoons, we mentioned a few sessions back, what color is Ursula? What color is Scar? What color is Jafar? Like, these are intentional things, y'all.
And even when you look at movies like New Jack City, even though it was a great movie, but when
dark skin, light skin,
and when Nino Brown was like, the woman in the movie was, you know, his girlfriend, I guess, was crying and very tearful, and he poured some sort of alcohol on her and was like, cancel this B, I'll find me another one. I can't remember the direct quote, but it was something related to that.
Yeah.
Like
Vanessa Williams.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
The dark complected Vanessa Williams is 2 of them, y'all.
He was doing that to Michael Michelle.
Oh,
in that part.
Yes.
Well, that's her real name, Michael Michelle. But I can't remember what her name is in the movie though.
It don't matter.
Yeah, but he did. I mean, but still, that's him, you know, showing how to treat black women.
Oh yeah, that's that would have been a good breakdown, because that's an example of misogynoir.
But it's rough. We couldn't do that one, y'all. My spirit.
Yeah, that's a rough movie. Let us know if y'all want us to do it later, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And then another way that I would just say black men can step up is to step up. Call other men out on their behavior.
Accountability.
Yes. And then ask basic questions like, why would you say something like that? And what do you mean she's not good enough? Or, you know, whatever. She has an attitude.
Yeah. Give me the receipts. How are you defining that?
And then separate yourself from that type of behavior and that type of conversation.
Yep.
Yes. You might lose some people.
Yeah. But don't be a willing participant either.
Right.
Okay. So then we've talked about, you know, our men folk. As us ladies, what can we do?
I mean, I definitely think it's important to, you know, set boundaries and, you know, for your conditions of treatment. Like, I think that's something that we often don't do because we're trying to keep the peace or to lessen ourselves. But some things just don't go.
True.
And I would say for like woman to woman interaction, understand the difference between passion and aggression.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't have to like it.
Right.
At all. Yeah. That makes me think of the It's Just a Job session. So also I would say go back and listen to that one because there's a lot of misogynoir that's steeped in that session. Because I thought about that when we were like doing our research. I was like, oh Lord, that's exactly what was happening. at the job that shall remain unnamed. But just what you were saying there, learn the difference between passion and aggression.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that happens to Black women a lot is, I can't read you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Are you okay? Why don't you smile?
Use your words and then you won't have to read me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, and then just kind of, again, our tone of voice, whether we're speaking loudly or if we're a little bit more animated, you know, just hearing that, you know, is a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
She going back, yeah.
I'm not, because I definitely want to call this person out heavy, but, you know, I'll be professional. But I agree with Dr. Jones-Hines. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Also, something that we can do is to be intentional about the space we hold in these different situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, take up all your space.
Yeah.
Don't shrink.
Yes. Don't shrink. And be okay with using your voice, to kind of go with what Dr. Wall was just saying. Be okay with using your voice. You have an opinion and you have the right to share your opinion. Whether or not people like it or not, it doesn't matter. You have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree. And then one of the other things that I would say is pay attention to kind of what you feel. You know, we've talked about this before in various other sessions, but if you're not paying attention to energy, and I'm not going to go down the road of energy, but I'm just going to say, you know, we are very good at picking up vibes. You have intuition, you have a gut reaction for a reason. Pay attention to that. If you're feeling uncomfortable with somebody, if either you're feeling objectified or you're feeling misheard or you're feeling dismissed, you know, you have that feeling existing because something is alerting you that something's going awry. Don't feel like you have to push that feeling down, that you have to gaslight yourself, because please understand, you can gaslight yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't come from other people. That you have to, you know, convince yourself that what you're experiencing is not real. That it is okay for you to feel and recognize that, yes, this person is saying this to me, this person is doing this to me, and that I have the right to be able to speak on it.
Yeah.
So talking about speaking on it, I think that leads into something that happens with a lot of us, if we were going to kind of expand this idea out a little bit broader, from just necessarily misogyny noir, but respectability, you know, and that feeling like you can't take up space and that you have to present a certain way.
Yep.
Like I said, again, I think this is a broader issue, not necessarily specific to Black women. And it's not necessarily specific to Black people, but we are talking about, you know, us right now. So we're going to keep it about that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about kind of respectability, politics, one of the biggest things that comes to mind for me is code switching.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that don't know what code switching is, trust me, you've done it. And you probably don't even realize that you've done it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people call this your white people voice.
Or your telephone voice.
Or your telephone voice.
Good morning. Thank you for calling. How may I help you today?
Uh-huh. But all of a sudden, when you get outside with your friends, like, girl, guess what happened today? You know, it's just that whole, even the way we speak.
Yeah.
You know, just how we speak on the podcast. You know, I try to be as similar with my clients as I am on the podcast. But, you know, just realizing that you have a professional voice versus a home voice.
Mm-hmm.
And how you switch your behavior up based off who you're around and where you are. So you may be more relaxed and laid back in a particular setting, like at home or with your friends hanging out. But if you go to an office and you're sitting and you're, you know, inquiring about a loan, you may sit a little bit more straight. You may, you know, present yourself in a much more direct, you know, professional kind of manner that it serves a purpose for you.
Yeah. It's similar to what we were talking about earlier, you know, the etiquette of, you know, being pulled over. You become a whole other person, you know, because the goal is to get home.
Yeah.
I can't be Nichelle. If I get pulled over, I have to be Dr. Nichelle Monique Wall. I need to put my keys on the dash like a military person. Like it's a whole protocol. Like if y'all go in my car right now, all of my documents are in a sheet protector, and I literally hand the sheet protector to the officer. I keep my hands on 10 and 2. I give all my cards because I got more than one card I have to give them, in the state of Texas.
Bang, bang.
So that is another realm of respectability politics.
Absolutely. I think that also kind of goes with that, like work. You have to work twice as hard to have as much.
Shout out to Daddy Pope.
Yes. And again, this is that whole idea of trying to beat out that idea that we're lazy, that we don't, that we don't do anything. But no, we're great. And we know we're great, but we're trying to prove to you
that we're great. I'm valuable. I'm worth something. Even though you clearly already know that.
Yes.
If you don't believe me, study the migration of Black people after slavery, and it'll tell you everything you need to know.
I'm going to have to dive into that a little bit.
Because the South almost collapsed.
Oh, girl.
Oh, I mean, that's even Europe. Like the Moors went to Europe to rebuild them.
That part,
I know. That's a digression. So
y'all should see the way we looking at her like,
don't do it.
She about to get that. She was pulling that string, guys. She was ready to go.
y'all notice I've been a little bit more silent because I was like, I can't talk about it because then I get passionate and then
she's screaming at the intern.
We love it. Y'all let us know if y'all want more subjects like this.
Please say no, because y'all know I'm gonna act a fool.
Like, look, we want y'all to be real.
Yeah, we've had this on the books for months, and we still was trying not to do it.
Yes, because this is a hard one because it's something that's very personal to all three of us. Because as you all know, we are Black women, so this affects us personally. And so sometimes it's difficult to kind of keep that hat on because you want to still be professional, and we want to present you with, information that is beneficial to you to use in your daily life. But we cannot forget that we are women first. We are Black women first, and we experience these things daily. We experience it from our clients. We experience it from, people that we deal with professionally. We experience it at the store, and we've probably on some level experienced it within our own relationships. So sometimes it's hard to keep that separate in a setting like this.
Yeah.
So we're engaging in respectability politics right now.
Halfway. Well, 2 of us are.
Yep. No.
I mean, she did about, I say a cool 65. There's about 35%. We was like eyeballing. We was the eyeball emojis at her guy.
Yeah.
They was
like, don't say it. Don't say it.
It's like, LaFanya. Not Dr. Jones Hines.
No, it was about to be funny.
It's like,
I'm going to call your mom and your daddy. Get it together.
But we love it, though. It's about balance.
It is.
It's about balance. So if we were going to round this out, kind of talking about, kind of respectability politics, what would you say has been, how do you guys think that engaging in that serves and hurts Black women specifically, since we were talking about misogyny?
Because you want to be the good Black person. You try to be the token. It's not that you want to necessarily be that, but a lot of time in white spaces, there's only room for one. And you want to try to be the best representation of that so that you get the job, so that you get the loan, so that you get the promotion. But it leaves a residue on your soul.
I think and I'll just speak for me. I think for me, it goes against what my morals and values. So it makes me feel like I'm not being true to myself. But because there are only minimal percentage of us in this field, I know I have to present myself in a certain way to make sure, one, we're serving our community well, and we're representing, since we all are collective, seemingly, we are representing Black businesses and Black women business owner correctly, or not correctly, but efficiently. And, you know, and so that we can have positive relationships with other people in the community, whether they're business owners or clients and things of that nature. So for me, it's difficult because I feel at times, I try not to do it much, but I know obviously I have to, but it's difficult because I feel like I'm not being authentic, and I try to thrive on being authentic.
I would say for myself, how it has served me is it's given me access to people that I probably would have not normally had access to had I not behaved in the way that I did. You know, learning, you know, a specific type of lingo, you know, learning certain types of words, you know, gives you a visual advantage. Whether it gives you an actual advantage, I can't say, but it gives you a visual advantage. So I will definitely say it's served me, that it's given me access to, you know, certain types of people, because you seem much more easygoing. You're not like the other ones. Even though I know that that's cringeworthy, again, like you ladies, to my soul, but I know, you know, it's one of them, you got to do what you got to do kind of things. Yeah. You know, if I want to be somewhere, if I want to achieve certain things, and I know that this type of individual is the path to get me there, because just because of the way that, and this is no slight to anybody, you know, in my family, but we just don't have connections like that. You know what I'm saying? We don't have generational, you know, family connections where it's just, hey, go talk to Bill and he'll get you on.
Yeah. Behind the gun.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You have to forge these paths on your own. So if that means, and it feels like selling out, you know, if you got to put on the smile and as like they would say, shuck and jive, but I know that you are a means to an end. I know that you teaching me this information will get me to the level that I need to be, so then I can be in a space to help the people that I actually want to help. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I got you.
So,
you know,
it's a double edge.
One thing that before we get up off of here that I think we definitely need to talk about, which touches on respectability, politics, and misogyny noir, is the high value man.
I was trying to avoid that. I've been trying to avoid this topic.
Nope.
Like, seriously, I've been trying to avoid this topic because it just irks my soul.
I'm taking a time out. I'll let y'all talk.
This topic irks my soul.
For our interns, if y'all don't know what we're talking about, there has been a recent uproar in the last, few months because of an individual named Kevin Samuels. I don't know if he necessarily coined this term, but he's the one that's most associated with it right now. Came up with this term, high value man. And it is based off of whatever you come up with in reality, but the way it is used is actually to demean and to diminish a woman. Like, if you want a high value man, then you need to do this. You can't have no kids. You have to be this shape. You have to be this size, this complexion, your own hair. Like, it's very much giving me creep vibes.
I wanted to call his show.
You should have.
Oh,
my husband wants me to.
Oh,
well,
really?
Look,
really?
he said
yes.
He said he good with it. Make sure you film it.
Oh,
girl,
most definitely.
Ooh.
You gonna eat that man up. Don't do that.
Talking about
Don't
facts.
Don't do that. I don't need you having no health problems because you done went across the Zoom call. No. But what are y'all thoughts on this whole phase that's going on right now? High value man, low value man, high value woman, low value woman.
If they could see me rolling my eye, I think it's so asinine.
I agree.
It's so
degrading, insulting. It just feeds into people's insecurities that's already there.
It's stupid.
It's not based in any factual data. None. What in the world is a high value man?
Because if it's just that you got like a lot of money and good peen, then that's thank you. Then that's not really a lot. You know, if that is what you deduce your manhood to, like, you ain't working with a lot.
No. And again, I watched a great video on this. So Julesy did a very good video. She did a really good video on this. And one of the things that she was talking about is there's no real definition of high value. Is this? And again, it's about assimilating to whiteness, because that's what you're defining high value is as a comparison to, you know, because usually when people talk about this, we're assuming that they're talking about this in reference to money. But again, what in the world is high value when you're talking about money? Are we talking about a 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, a million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion?
If that's the case, are you just talking about somebody with a job?
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very steeped in classism, or elitism. But unfortunately, Black men do not have, as a collective. Now, of course, you have individuals that are outliers, but as a collective, do not hold the power or the ability to amass the type of power that white men have. So how can you categorize yourself realistically as a high value man if you're using socioeconomic status as a rubric?
You can't use their system against yourself. That don't really work out well.
That hasn't been working out well.
Yeah. So I think this is a term that is, again, it's illogical. You know, it's illogical for us to use this against ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we are not a part of a system where we really can amass that.
Yeah.
You have outliers. There are absolutely men that make a lot of Black men that make a lot of money. That does exist.
Definitely.
And there are lots of Black men that don't make nothing. So you're going to find everything in between. But when you're talking about high value, again, you have to have some sort of collective data definition on what that means. So if you have one definition of what high value is, I have one of what high value is, and you have one of high value, then we all done selected 3 different men and we're all going to fight about what high value is.
And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you graduate and the school gives you the diploma, you can't give yourself the high level. Like, you can't be like, I'm a high value man, but you're not the one deciding unless you are a gay man and you date men.
That's interesting.
But if you date women, you can't assign your value. I'm sorry.
Ooh, I see where you're going with that. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, because the woman decides what the high value is.
Yeah, and just like I would say on the flip side, the man decides the high value woman. Because a century ago, it wouldn't have been none of us. We'd have probably been somewhere stoned or staked or something, you know, burned.
True.
You know, we wouldn't have been an appropriate woman because we have too much to say, and we have jobs, and you know, we're not at home rearing children and having the food ready. But you know, these are all subjective to times and cultures and so many other things. It's just a really ridiculous way to put yourself in another box. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of being in boxes.
Yes, and it pits us against each other. Again, this is another one, like you were saying, is kind of umbrellaed under, you know, misogyny noir, that it pits us against each other. Because when it comes to, if we're using financial success as a definition of high value,
The only.
and if we're going to, again, there's no clear definition on this, but if we're going to say, let's just say 500,000, right? You're only going to have, you know, who knows, 5% of the men make, let's say black men, 5% of black men make 500,000. But you're not going to have, so that means 95% of them don't.
Are not that person.
Yes. So how are you going to have people seek 5% of available partners? You have 100% of women trying to.
That mean you gonna. I can't remember the name of this young lady, but it was a video that I saw the other day, and she was like, "Sis, if you got a man, then we gonna share that man, because the percentage of men is so low."
I don't want no
category,
sister wives.
Huh?
I don't want any sister wives.
Exactly.
I don't want to share. That's just me. That's no shade to anybody that's poly or anything. And I mean poly, not cheaters. That's a different topic that we already covered. But I'm not sharing.
Girl, when I saw that, because my husband sent me that video. When he sent me that video, I said, "Boy, bye. Get your life."
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was watching another video and by Abba and Preach, but and Abba was on this panel with these women, and he was talking about, you know, they were specifically talking about this high value kind of idea, and he was saying, like, you do realize that if you have 100 men, 100 women and 100 men, and 2 of the men make, you know, a lot of money. He was like, the 2 men have 100 women to choose from.
Yep.
The women have 2.
Yep.
And, you know, people don't realize that if you are using the term high value and you're only attributing it to money, then, and whether you're talking about high value for men or women, but specifically this is usually attributed to men, that the pool is extremely low if we're only using money as a definition of high value.
Yeah.
Because the higher you get with the dollar amount, the smaller the pool becomes. You can find lots of men that make 30,000. You can find lots of men that make 50. You can find a great deal of men that make 100. You're not going to find a whole lot that make $1 million.
This is true.
And get to keep it.
And make it consistently.
Legally.
So, you know, I think this is a term I will be very glad when it finally dies down.
Yeah.
And goes away.
Because it's tearing my nerves up.
So people can get back to reality.
Because we live here.
Like, can we get back to reality and we look at what, you know, again, high value, what are you defining it at? And remember that it's an individual thing, because some people don't value money. For some people, high value is somebody that comes home every night, that is consistent, loyal, you know, someone that is family oriented,
take care of the kids,
and financially stable. High value, you know, for them, you know, he can make 50,000, but he's financially stable, you know. So if we can get back to reality on what is actually value, then, because you can buy expensive things and they are worse than some of the cheap stuff, because all that glitters ain't gold.
No, it's pyrite.
So,
AKA fool's gold.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I mean, I could go more, but that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say about that. That's all, folks.
I agree with that one. And don't expect to have no full session over high value men, because we're not gonna be doing that.
Because I'm not gonna be able to take that.
We're not either one of them, because that's the flip side of the high value. Mm-hmm. So we're not doing one on hypergamy or high value men.
Well,
not a whole session.
Explain to them what hypergamy is, because they may not understand that.
So hypergamy is, the pursuit of a partner that basically makes a lot of money, that's in a higher social status than you are, and has the ability to pull you up. But for the most part, it's basically the pursuit of a male partner that makes a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But, you definitely it's all about social standing.
Yeah.
That he has a higher social standing than you. So he can upgrade you, basically.
And if you need to hear about that, go listen to the last session. Mm-hmm. Toxic femininity and toxic masculinity.
Yep. So we're not doing full sessions on those guys. Those are definitely hot button topics.
Okay. Well, like we normally do, we want to make sure we close out with a quote. And today's quote is from Angela Davis, and it reads, "Black women have had to develop a larger vision of our society than perhaps any other group. They have had to understand white men, white women, and Black men, and they have had to understand themselves. When Black women win victories, it is a boost for virtually every segment of society."
Must be this volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at the Recycled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.